Hello and welcome to MK Rants, a podcast where I, your host MK, rant to you about topics mainly anime, but today we're going to be venturing into the world of cartoons. So, I love a cartoon known as Batman Beyond. You may or may not have heard of it, but it was produced in the 90s, and I think it ran from 1999 to 2001. And honestly, it's one of my personal favorite cartoons of all time. It is part of what is considered the DC AU lineup, which is, for those of you who don't know what AU means, it's animated universe. This includes stuff like Superman the Animated Series and Batman the Animated Series, as well as Justice League and Justice League Infinite. Now, I want to talk about Batman Beyond because I love Terry McGinnis, right? But after watching a Casually Comics video, I realized that Terry McGinnis has not had the best luck when transitioning into comics. And today, I'm going to explain why I think it would be super easy to introduce Terry McGinnis into, the DC comic world. So let's start off with why he probably doesn't fit. Well, Robin. Robin is a big factor in probably why Terry isn't more in the comic book space. Because while he did have a 6-issue miniseries followed by a 24-issue series that followed along the adventures of the animated verse of the animated Batman Beyond. As a whole, more recent Batman Beyond comics have been interesting. Now, again, I will link the Casual Comics video because they go into a more overview of the comics and certain stuff, and it's a whole retrospective video, which I personally enjoyed, but I want to bounce off some of the ideas and give my take on it. Now, here's the thing. Terry McGinnis as a whole, like I said, because there's Robin, having a Batman in training doesn't really sit well with a lot of people, especially because Bruce Wayne in Batman Beyond is, hear me out here, old. He has aged since his show, since Batman the Animated Series. So, that poses a problem, because comics being such a big space, characters don't really age. They can stay young forever, or at least age very differently compared to how, cartoons would say age. And, that poses a problem because how are we going to explain the time jump of Terry being Batman but Bruce Wayne being old, especially considering how many ongoing comics there are of Batman and his adventures? That's a problem. And because technically there are infinite amounts of Robin possibilities, you also run the risk of just reusing some of the same tropes that you could see in a lot of other Robins. But here's how I would make it work. I would have all the Robins, including Damian Wayne, Batman's son, because Talia al Ghul and Batman had a kid. It's weird, it's complicated, but Damian Wayne is Batman's biological son. Can I talk about that episode of Batman Beyond for a bit? So, by the time Batman Beyond was being animated, right, it was from the 90s, and at the time Damian Wayne didn't exist. I don't think it was a concept yet. However, they do in Batman Beyond brings in Ra's al Ghul again. I pronounce it Raish because that's what they say in the show, so I'm gonna call him Ra's al Ghul. So, the thing is, because Damian didn't exist yet, this is a more future thing. Basically, the episode starts off with Talia coming to Bruce in the Batcave and is like, oh, happy birthday, because I think it was Bruce's birthday. And, then they leave, and then Talia's like, oh, you should do Lazarus Pit. The process is much safer than it was, 80 years ago. It wasn't probably 8 years ago. Oh my gosh, computer, I don't need you right now to bother me, but thank you, I guess. I can't. Where's my mouse? I don't know. Okay. So, the point of the matter is, Bruce and Terry go out to the Lazarus Pit, right? And, Bruce goes through this de-aging thing. The Lazarus Pit in all of its glory, and he comes out a couple years younger, and Talia's like, yay, and we're like, ooh, and even Terry's like, what? But everything seems normal until Bruce was just wandering around and he hears Raish's voice, and so he busts in and sees Talia, and Talia's like, oh, well, haha, guess what, I'm Raish. And then we're like, oh, okay then, yeah, that's not scary and really creepy at all, but it gets better. So Raish was figured out that to stay young forever, he would have to transfer his mind, right? So, at the time, the technology that he used wasn't the best, so it had to have a very close genetic match. So, that's why Talia doesn't really exist anymore, it's just Raish inside Talia's body. And so, there's that. And so he hooks Bruce up to the machine because the technology advances. And, you know, Ra's, who looks like Talia, is like, well, yeah, I'm gonna put myself into your body, and then I'm gonna make myself younger with the Lazarus pit or whatever, and then I'm gonna go back to, like, Gotham City as, you know, and present myself as Talia and Bruce Wayne's long-lost son. I know, that episode was trippy, and, you know, Terry defeats Talia or whatever. It's actually Ra's, it's not Talia, but, you know, the whole shebang, and then bada bing, bada boom, explosion, and then, you know, Bruce becomes older again because Lazarus Pit's effects don't last forever, obviously, especially because he didn't go through, like, the full treatment. He went through, like, one round of it, but then he was like, so, you know, there's that. But where was I? Oh yeah, that's right. I was talking about Damian Wayne. Anyway, so to organize my thoughts in a respectable manner, I think that if we made Damian be like, you know what, I don't want to be Batman. I want to be my own hero, because each of the Robins grows out of their Robin role and becomes a different hero, right? You have Nightwing, you have Oracle, you have Jason Todd, you have all of these other heroes that start off as Robin. And so I think Damian would want to be like, become more than that, or become his own hero, or another option is that he, excuse me, phone, thank you, but I assume that he would, or that I would assume that he could also take over, you know, Wayne Enterprises, because, you know, that I don't think Terry could handle very well, because it's a lot of effort to run a company, and I think Damian could do that very well, and, you know, he could put on he could still have a Robin-esque feel to him when next to Terry, but as a whole, he takes care of the more, like, business side of, you know, Wayne Enterprises, because that's important. And, you know, it's Bruce's, like, thing that he also has to balance while being Batman. Excuse me. Now, I think that would work. So I'm making it work in my head because Damian's existence makes sense, but at the same time also interferes with Terry coming in, because, you know, there's that. But because if we have Damian take over, you know, Wayne Enterprises, we can slot him in perfectly, so he's not just his own hero in managing Wayne Enterprises. He can just manage Wayne Enterprises while also helping Terry, who is Batman, right? And then it all works. So, like, Terry could be like, Damian, I need some money for this. And, you know, Damian can be like, alright, Terry, here's what I can give you. Does that help? And he's like, yeah, thanks, bro. And, you know, just the whole shebang, basically, is there's a Robin aspect, but there's also not a Robin aspect, because Damian grew to be his own person. Now, the next problem we face, which is how do we make that skip go well? How do we make that time skip go well and insert itself very, like, well and slot itself easily in comics, right? So we're gonna get dramatic here, because this is the only logical solution. So, as of right now, DC has done Future State, right? Which kind of took a Batman Beyond aspect, but it really didn't take the time jump far enough. It took it maybe like 5-7 years in the future, so all pretty recent. Batman Beyond takes place like several, like, decades after, right? After, like, Batman starts being Batman. And so, you know, there's that. And the problem with that is how can we take Future State and the ideas Future State has and the characters Future State had, and then put them into a more Batman Beyond aspect. So we can keep all the characters, right? We're just gonna have them replace the heroes in a good way. Like, the old heroes want to retire. Like, Wonder Woman, she wants to retire, right? Maybe not Superman, because it's Superman, right? And so we're just gonna have those heroes kind of make their comeback, like those heroes in Future State kind of make their comeback in Batman Beyond. And that's how the new Justice League will work. I'm figuring out everything as I figure out Terry McGinnis. So we're gonna have that, right? And then, what was I gonna say? So, I would just get rid of Future State. I would just erase the whole thing. I'd just do a revamp, have the status quo be, like, revamped, and then just save the heroes from Future State until you do the Batman Beyond thing. Because Batman's been Batman since, like, maybe, like, the 30s, I think. But he's been around a while. So we have to figure out how to make this transition seem natural. So you're not going to get natural. Again, like I said earlier, the comics, people don't age normally in comics. They're kind of in this suspended place where they age, but slowly, like super, super slowly. It's because you can keep making stories with them. Unlike an animated show where, you have to have people aging to, have the sort of semblance of life, right? Now, the trouble with replacing Batman, like I said, is because he's been around so long, he's so iconic. Especially because Terry McGinnis, his villains, while iconic, might I add, are nothing compared to, like, Bruce Wayne's villain, like the Joker, Two-Face, Scarecrow, all of the villains that, Bane, it's Vane. I don't know. I think it's Vane, but I say Bane sometimes. Maybe I've been secretly right. I don't know. But you have those iconic villains, and so having Terry's villains you have to make Terry's villains just as iconic as Bruce's. So when you think of Terry McGinnis, what villains do you think of? For me, I think of the updated Royal Flush Gang. I think of Ink, Spellbinder, right? And I think those are, like, the main trio. Also, the Assassin Lady. Forget her name, but she's dope as heck, and I love her. So, I would want to make them good, right? I would want them to replace as Bruce's villains, but that's going to take time. So, right off the bat, we're going to get depressing here. So, I would slowly have DC take their social medias, right, and just slowly hint that something big's going to happen. Something big's going to happen. We're going to have all the currently running issues come to a close. We're going to have, or a lot of series get, like, closed off. Some, like, current, like, stories. Like, for any hero. Well, maybe not any hero, but most heroes, like the Justice League heroes, we're going to have those stories, like, come to an end. Because we're going to take it full circle. Next, I would have some cryptic posts. I call them cryptic posts because that's how I can personally describe them with my vocabulary. Basically, it'll be like Batman's logo, and then spray painted over it is Terry McGinnis' logo, the Batman Beyond logo, because in my opinion, that would be dope. And then, on the bottom, like the bottom text is like, something big is coming. So, I would keep that on for about 6 months. And then I would make the big, like, announcement on, like, a live stream or something. Or on their social medias, right? Because and then you'd be like, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are old. They have aged and are now ready to pass on their mantles. First, we're gonna introduce the new Batman. Bada bing, bada boom, you launched Terry McGinnis! So, issue 1 of this comic I've made up in my head. It's gonna be depressing right off the bat, so that might not please everyone, but for me at least, that's the most rational solution. So it's Bruce at his funeral. So we're at Bruce Wayne's funeral, right? And in the audience of said funeral, we're gonna have panels, just panels of people standing there and, like, some narration being like, so this is it, isn't it? We're finally gonna start something new. And, so we're gonna have Superman and Wonder Woman there, because they are kind of like the classic trio. Also, Wonder Woman's immortal, and Superman doesn't age like a normal human. So we're gonna make them look older, but at the same time, younger than Bruce would. And, if you want extra emotion points, we're gonna have Bruce buried next to his parents or next to Alfred. I know. We're getting depressing, but we're gonna get somewhere good. Just trust me on this one. So then we have Terry standing there with all of the Robins, or all of the past Robins. We're gonna have Damian there. We're gonna just have, like, the feels, and we're gonna have Max there, because Max is also iconic and one of Terry's best friends. If we want to, we could have Dana there, because Dana is best girl. She is such a supportive girlfriend. Even though she doesn't know what's going on, she's such a supportive person and is patient, which, you know, is more than I can say for a lot of more modern cartoon relationships or TV relationships. But like I said, it's going to be very somber, it's going to be very depressing, and we're going to go on, and then we're going to flash a couple, like after the funeral, Dana and Max left, Wonder Woman and Superman left to go mourn or whatever, and we're going to have Terry sitting in the Batcave with all of the other, like, past Robins. And we're going to start with Nightwing, because Nightwing is iconic, and he was, like, the first Robin, because he was Dick Grayson. He's the first Robin, he's iconic, right? And we're going to have him be like, alright, kid, here's the deal. Damian's going to take over the family business, but you're going to take over the Batman mantle. And Terry's sobbing at this point. And the Robins will be like, we made this decision because you spent time with Bruce in his last years, and for that we thank you, because we couldn't be there. So, you know, I'm getting emotional. Like, I thought about this scenario so much, because I'm thinking about how to make it natural, right? So we have that scene, and then we have the Robins be like, you are now Batman, and we thank you for all you did for Bruce in his last years. And, you know, we'll be here to support you in anything you need. And, you know, they give him a present, which is his own bat suit. It looks like it wouldn't be his more modern, it wouldn't be the Batman Beyond suit we see in the show. It would be, he would still wear that suit, that would be his main suit, but this suit was special because it's Batman's old suit. It's styled like Batman's old costume, but it has the Batman Beyond logo on it, and it has Terry's bat on it. And, you know, they all have a hug, and then it gets sad because we're all sobbing. Well, not everyone, and then, you know, they're sobbing, I'm sobbing. You know, I think that would work. And then the cover of the comic would be like a portrait of Bruce, Terry, Ace, and the entire Bat fam. And, you know, that would be the cover. Now, the first issue sounds grim, but from there, we take it to a new level, and then we just start jumping into a different story arc. This will take place like a month or two after Bruce's funeral, and, you know, this is Terry kind of coping with everything, and, you know, he's like, alright then, I gotta step up and I gotta be Batman. Damian's stepping up and he's running Wayne Enterprises, so I'm gonna step up and really put myself into my Batman work, right? And, you know, I would assume that he also proposes to Dana in this issue, maybe. And, you know, Max is kind of like the Batgirl, the Oracle. She's there. She also works in the Batcave. And, you know, Dana, I think it would also be nice if he told Dana at this point, like, hey, Dana, I have something to tell you. Also, I have a feeling that Terry would inherit, like, Bruce's mansion, like, the Wayne family estate, because that's where the Batcave is, and, like, none of the Robins, and even Damian is just like, that's fine, man, I can deal with it, I can take, you have to deal with the Batcave, like, you can take the house, and none of them are, like, angry about it, none of them are bitter, that's not gonna be a plot point, it's just, they're okay with it, they all agreed on it, and they're like, alright then, you're in charge of Wayne Manor. So basically, Terry and Dana live there now, and Terry's like, alright, Dana, come downstairs with me. And she's like, oh, but we're already downstairs. He's like, no. And, you know, he leads her into the Batcave. And Dana, at first, is, like, shocked with disbelief, because she kind of puts the pieces together and is like, so that's what you are. That's why you sometimes flake on us on our date night. That makes so much more sense. That's why you're tired sometimes in the morning. And Dana's like, okay, I support you. Because Dana is a supportive girlfriend. And this is when Terry is like, you know what? I have something else to tell you. And, you know, he gets on one knee and proposes to Dana. That could also be the second issue, right? It doesn't have to get into Crime Fighting Way, but the third issue, you know, we have Batman and Max and, you know, Damian kind of like working together as like a trio, with Dana on the sidelines being like, woo, that's my fiance, right? And, you know, we have like a throwback. We have him fighting Ink, for example. We'll have him fighting Ink. And, you know, that'll be like that'll set the tone for the rest of the series. The first two issues, I think, should be not depressing, but should be somber. Or the first issue should be somber, and then by the second issue, we lift up the tone a little bit, because I I want this series, I want this idea to be something that can, like, live in the history books. I want Terry to not rival Batman's legacy, but to add to his legacy, right? And I know it's depressing, but if DC did something like that, or does something like this in, like, 10 years from now, that would be absolutely perfect. Because in 10 years, that would be such a huge thing for, like, DC Comics, right? That would be such a thing, and it would, like, revolutionize the comic industry. That would be the last, like, revamp I think DC would realistically need, like, a big one, right? And then you would have Wonder Woman start off treating her, and then you would have Batman and Superman get their own stories, right? And having them, well, they would each get their own comic series, but we see Terry McGinnis in his issue, and then we see Batman and Superman training their new, not their replacements, but their proteges, and teaching them how to be a good, how to fight well, how to be a good Justice League member, and just showing them this is where you will carry on our legacies. You will be so important that we are going to help you. And you know, Terry's going to be there, and then we'll have another series. We'll have those, and then we'll have a fourth series. Like, these are, like, the main series to start off with, right? We have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And then the fourth series is going to be Justice League. Just the new Justice League. We're going to see all of them come together, and we're going to see, like, the new Green Lantern, the new, like, can we have Martian Manhunter still? Would Martian Manhunter be around, or would Martian Manhunter, like, learn to like, I don't know, but we would have someone like Martian Manhunter. I love Martian Manhunter, by the way, like, he's amazing, but he doesn't get enough press. I stand Martian Manhunter. And then we're gonna have, maybe a Thanagarian come in, or have someone like Hawkgirl, and, you know, I'm basing my Justice League off of the Justice League cartoon from the 90s. Because that's my favorite version, so that's what we're sticking with. And then, you know, and because also it'll bounce off the series really well, it'll bounce off the characters really well, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm trying to make everything English. I'm trying to make everything flow smoothly together, but, you know, everything is just natural, right? All of these would take place in the same universe. Again, this would be far in the future comparatively to Future State. You could have that Wonder Woman from Future State, and that Superman from Future State, that Green Lantern from Future State. You could have those characters come back here for those series. Okay, so think about it. Maybe it's not just 4 series, maybe 6. 5 for the members of Justice League. So Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and then one more. Who would that one more be? Ooh, I didn't think of that. Ooh, maybe. No, because you have Batman. You have Terry already. So, like, I'm not sure. You'd have another. If you have any ideas, let me know. But it would be those 4 plus another, and then that Justice League series. Those would be the main series you're gonna start off with, and you will start those from start to finish, and then you'll launch other comics with the characters, and then bring in new characters to flush out the Justice League. You could keep the Teen Titans. You could keep the Titans East. You could keep the groups of heroes that are younger heroes. You could... Oh! The Flash. That's the character I was missing. You could have a Flash. Because Flash is really weird, but there was a Flash that traveled back in time. I think by accident. You could have that Flash. Or you could have Green Arrow train someone. You could bring them in, because... you know, that could be that. It could be Green Arrow and Black Canary's child. I'm thinking of layers here, man. Layers that I have. And so, you know, that would be... But for now, we're going to stick with the Flash. So, you could have the Flash as, like, protege or something. Or, like, like, not protege, but, like, continue of the Flash legacy. Like, the next, like, torch. The next torch holder. Right? Okay, so, going through the roster again. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern and Flash. Bada bing, bada boom, and then put them all together in a Justice League series. So it would be the 6 series in total, and then you could offshoot after those series are completed, right? To the fullest. Because not only would that work very well, it would also tie in this new phase, I guess, of the DC universe. Is everyone going to be happy by this change? No, not at all. But it's not to make everyone happy, it's to bring new readers, new comic readers into the series. Because, you know, after a while, people are going to get tired of like, having the same heroes over and over again. Especially if you don't use a lot of the heroes that you bring in, like, once or twice and, like, never expand on. Because that's not fun at all. That's actually kind of boring. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Superman, I love Batman, I love Wonder Woman, but there has to be someone out there who's tired of seeing them all the time, and I think this could be, like, a new breath of fresh air. This, I wouldn't call this future state, this, like, new launch of the comic book era. I would call this maybe, like, Beyond, or whatever. Like, that sounds really cheesy, but I would call it, like, Beyond, like the Beyond era of DC Comics. Why call it the Beyond era? Because it was started by Batman Beyond in the 90s. We've been here since the 90s, and I'm trying to get it to work. And I'm trying to figure out how I could put the puzzle pieces back together and make it a functional story and, like, a functional world. So, like I said, no one's gonna be happy. Like, not everyone's gonna be happy. You're not gonna please everyone, but you will get a lot of new comic readers if you do this. Like, the Batman hero, like, the Batman stories will still exist. The Wonder Woman, you know, all those stories will still exist, but they just won't be used. Those heroes will have to sit on a shelf, and they'll go down in the Hall of Fame. The characters I want to bring in are not gonna replace their legacy, but it will amplify their legacy, which is all I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to make fun of Batman. I'm not trying to make fun of Superman or Wonder Woman. I'm trying to amplify their legacies into a way that would, you know, last and bring in new readers and make people be like, ah, yes, this is my favorite hero. Because Terry McGinnis is my favorite Batman. Like, I love Bruce Wayne, but Terry McGinnis is phenomenal. I love Terry. Hashtag stan Terry McGinnis, because it's true. I want to see fan art. If you've found fan art, DM it to me on Instagram, because I would love to see it. But point of the matter is, after years and years, I think this could be the next phase. Like I said, this could be the next phase. This could be the Beyond era of the DC Comics. This could also spin off a ton of merchandise, a ton of profit, a ton of new cartoons. Because let me tell you, I love cartoons. I'm someone who freaking loves cartoons. Like, that's why I love, like Batman Beyond, Superman the Animated Series, like Justice League, because they're all so beautiful to me. I love the stories, I love the characters, and gosh darn it, I love the animation. Like, I've never, ever felt that way, like, before. Like, that, maybe that's why I like anime so much, because, like, I love watching, like, characters go on and, like, have journeys. And, like, here in the West, because I live in the West, I live in, like, North America, so cartoons here don't last really long. They maybe, like, up to 100 episodes split amongst, like, 5 seasons, but after that, like, no. Like, you won't see these, like, worlds again unless they make a movie, which they did with Batman Beyond. I think it ran for, like, 58 episodes. There's not even a proper ending. I think the proper ending is the movie. It was, like, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, which I have not seen, because I am emotionally making myself prepared for it. But, you know, as a whole, I really believe that this could be a great opportunity for DC. If anyone in DC marketing, like, watches this video or listens to this podcast, thank you for taking the time out of your day to, like, do this, and maybe take some of these ideas with you. Or if you like comics and you want to work for, like, DC one day, take these ideas with you, because you could be the change for the world. You could become, like, you could rewrite the comic industry. Like, you could bring yourself, like, part of the Hall of Fame. That's all I'm saying. But if this happens in, like, 10 years from now, I would be ecstatic, because, like, I would love to see, like, characters again. I would love to see Terry make a proper, like, breakthrough into comics, and I would just love to see them all, like, come together and be heroes. And I would love to see what a different version of the Justice League would look like. I would love to see what Superman and Wonder Woman could do to, like, train, like, proteges or whatever. Like, I would love to see that. And I think it'd be, honestly, gosh dang awesome. So I'd like to thank you all for listening to me ranting today. I know I promised a Psyche K video in the last podcast, but I really want to do this Terry McGinnis one. I really want to do Batman Beyond because it's one of my favorite cartoons, and I really want to talk about it before I lost all my ideas. I don't know when I'll make a Psyche K video, but I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I will see you all next time. Bye!